She was the kind of woman who gave more than she ever received. She listened deeply, cared gently, and carried the weight of others as if it were her own. People came to her because she made them feel safe, but no one ever wondered who she ran to. She didn't know that giving endlessly could slowly make her invisible. She woke up every morning to messages from people who needed comfort. Someone was heartbroken. Someone was stressed. Someone felt lost. She replied to everyone, even on days she could barely hold herself together. Her partner came home each evening carrying storms. He blamed the world, then fate, then himself. And eventually she let his words sink into her silence because she thought supporting him was love. Over time, her silence became the ground where his anger grew. She told herself things would get better when life softened. But life didn't soften, and neither did he. She kept shrinking to make space for his frustrations. She tried so hard to be strong that she forgot she was human too. Her best friend depended on her like a lifeline. Every crisis turned into hours of emotional rescue. Every bad day became her responsibility. But her friend never once noticed when she was drowning inside her own quiet struggles. One afternoon, she sat alone at a cafe, feeling strangely hollow. People walked past her without seeing her tired eyes. She realized she had become the background character in her own life. She wondered if anyone would notice if she simply stopped giving. That night, she sent her partner a message saying she felt overwhelmed. He didn't ask why. He didn't ask what happened. He just replied hours later with, "I'm tired. We'll talk tomorrow." And the conversation ended before it began. Hoping for comfort, she texted her friend. Instead of asking how she was, her friend immediately said, "I need your help. Can you call?" It was another crisis waiting for her to carry. She carried it again, though her heart was trembling. Later that night, she couldn't sleep. She stared at the ceiling, feeling like a ghost in her own home. She wondered when she had become the one everyone depended on, but no one checked on. She didn't like the answer forming in her chest. The next morning, she woke up with a quiet clarity. Not anger, not sadness, just the truth catching up to her. She had mistaken being needed for being loved. She finally saw the difference, and it hurt in a strangely liberating way. For the first time, she turned off her phone. She didn't reply to anyone. She didn't carry anyone's emotions. She let the world go silent and listened to herself instead. The silence felt unfamiliar but peaceful. Her partner noticed the shift and asked what was wrong. When she tried to explain, he dismissed her feelings, saying she was overreacting. His lack of understanding cut deeper than all the years of arguments. She realized he loved what she provided, not who she was. Her friend also complained that she was distant. There were messages filled with frustration, not concern. "You've changed," her friend said, but what she meant was, "You're not available for my emotional emergencies anymore." The realization stung. She didn't reply. She put her phone away and walked outside. The sun felt warm on her face in a way she hadn't felt in years. It was the first time she felt the simple comfort of her own presence. She walked slowly through the park, watching strangers live gently. Kids played, couples laughed, people moved with purpose. And she realized she had been living only to respond to others, not to live for herself. She decided to reclaim small pieces of her life. She made tea and enjoyed the quiet. She read books she never finished. She slept without guilt. She took back moments she had given away to isolate. But people noticed her boundaries, and not everyone liked it. Some grew cold. Some were confused. Some grew angry. She finally understood that people who benefit from your lack of boundaries rarely celebrate when you build them. Her partner called her selfish for caring about herself. He said she was different, less supportive. But she no longer felt guilty hearing those words. She knew supportive had really meant sacrifice yourself for me. The breakup came quietly. He packed his things and left without looking back. She expected heartbreak but felt something closer to relief. She had been grieving the relationship long before it ended. Her best friend faded away too. No argument, no closure, just distance. The friendship had survived on her emotional labor, and once she stopped providing it, the connection couldn't stand on its own. A month passed, and the people she once thought she couldn't live without were gone. Her world became quieter painfully at first, then peacefully. She felt like she could finally breathe without permission. One night, she cried not from loneliness, but from realizing how long she had ignored her own needs. It wasn't sadness, it was release. She held herself and whispered, "I deserved better." She learned to enjoy her own company. She took long walks, cooked slowly, lit candles at night. She rediscovered pieces of herself she didn't know she had lost. Each day felt like stitching her soul back together. In time, new people entered her life softly. People who listened, people who asked real questions, people who didn't take her kindness for granted. She didn't have to shrink around them. She could breathe freely. One afternoon, she sat with someone new who asked, "And how are you doing?" She paused, surprised by the simplicity of the question. It had been years since anyone genuinely asked. She looked back at her journey and felt grateful for the endings that hurt, because they made space for beginnings that healed. She was no longer afraid of losing people. She was afraid of losing herself again. She realized she didn't lose anything important, she only lost people who were attached to her help, not to her heart. The emptiness she once feared had become peace. Her world became smaller but richer. Fewer people, but deeper bonds. Less noise, but more clarity. Less giving from guilt, more giving from love. She forgave her old self for staying too long in unbalanced relationships. Healing is not about forgetting. It's about understanding. And she finally understood why she had held on. She hadn't known her worth. When she looked in the mirror now, she didn't see exhaustion. She saw someone brave. Someone who had learned to stay when everyone else left. Someone who finally chose herself. One day, someone asked her what changed. She smiled softly and said, "I stopped giving my heart to people who only wanted my hands." It was the truest sentence she had ever spoken. She no longer tried to save everyone. She no longer apologized for resting. She no longer felt guilty for choosing peace. The quiet life she built was hers, gentle, warm, steady. Her heart didn't feel heavy anymore. It felt open, grounded, free. She finally understood that real love doesn't drain you, it holds you without asking you to disappear. And when she looked at her life, she realized that losing people wasn't the ending she thought it was. It was the beginning she needed. Because when no one stayed, she finally learned how to stay for herself.